Hello, Rabbi.
Lovely to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come in. Our relationship has flourished over the years. It's quite remarkable that in Hackney, a member of the Jewish faith and a member of the Muslim faith can walk side by side without any fear. Thank you. How are you doing, Rabbi?
Fantastic.
Good?
Thank you. Yeah.
And have a nice day?
Yeah, very good. There are many people who have the mistaken notion that Jews and Muslims are enemies of each other. In truth, we work together and protect each other. This has been the case in many other parts of the world as well, that Jews and Muslims, where there are minorities, have chosen to live together because we feel comfortable with each other. I know it sounds strange in today's situation, in today's tragic situation. Both peoples have suffered a lot and are suffering a lot.
I think when we talk about Israel and Palestine, I think we have to recognize that the number of deaths of the Palestinians over the last 40, 50, 60 years are so high compared to the losses of the Israelis. Israelis obviously a very powerful state, so comparisons are not the same.
I don't think we're playing a game and every life is important. Every single life, whoever he or she may be, because it depends when we start. Don't forget, Israel became an entity following the Holocaust. In 1948, it started off with 6 million dead. It started off with millions more traumatized and suffering from what had happened to them. And therefore, the will to live, the will to protect themselves, the will for security is very, very profound. I can assure you that the vast majority of people in Israel do not want that anyone else should suffer.
I accept about the Holocaust. I understand why Israel, the Jewish people moved to Israel or returned back to Israel. The Palestinians were very welcoming at the time. Palestine is under occupation. It's occupied land, the whole of Israel. So there are two sides of the story, Rabbi. Yeah. So there is pain. Also, the Palestinians, they need their security as well. So we can't talk about one person's security and ignore the others. And it's a form of a genocide that's taking place.
Genocide is a strong word. I wouldn't use genocide.
Well, if you're talking
genocide
about
means mass murder.
It is. I mean, in my perspective, it is when you throw rockets into places which are heavily populated by civilians. It's genocide. It's not targeted against certain people.
But genocide means to exterminate a whole people.
Well, there's ethnic cleansing going on. They're moving people out.
Ethnic cleansing and genocide are not the same thing.
It's not, but
both are things that I find disturbing. But I think we need to be careful in the use of language. There were internal tensions in the land of Israel, and Hamas attacked Israel from Gaza, shooting thousands of rockets, and caused death to people in Israel. It caused death to Jews in Israel. It caused death to Arabs in Israel.
Rabbi, I understand what you're trying to say. Blame Hamas and whatever, but Hamas wasn't the one who fired the rockets. It was in response to something which happened. And what do you expect?
Israel didn't attack Gaza. This was something internal, and Hamas decided unilaterally to fire thousands of rockets. And
it's self-defense.
No.
It's self-defense.
If you mix it in.
If you go and attack people in Al-Aqsa Mosque,
But they find
people around the world
But they
are
find
angry.
that they find that civilian
Throwing stones.
No, the Hamas fired these rockets at civilian targets and killed civilians.
Well, we should welcome the ceasefire, definitely. I think the work has to start again to rebuild the community, to rebuild a sense of unity.
I mean, the ceasefire, as Munaf intimated, isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's the end of fighting, it's the end of war, but now we have to build peace.
Nobody's ever going to get everything they want. But you've got to start somewhere and build bridges to go at least meet in the middle somewhere. And I think that's the message that we need to start trying to give.
To make peace in the Middle East is a very challenging and complex task. But what me and Munaf can do is to show that Jews and Muslims can not only live side by side, but we can live as friends. And when we live as friends, it's beneficial to both of us and to both communities.